I was born in Concordia, Kansas, back in 1949. Born and raised on a hog farm there. I joined the military, and then I shipped out to Vietnam over on USS Midway and did 2 tours over in Nam and got over the road to Spain. And Eddie Woodfield, behind my missionary at the time, had started Bethel Baptist Church there, and old drinking buddy of mine had gotten saved and talked me into going out to church and heard the gospel out there. And boy, God just totally changed my life. After a period of time, I got to Tennessee Temple and started Bible college there in 77 and finished in about 2.5 years. And a month after we graduated, I was on the mission field, starting churches outside of military bases there in Spain and then over in Italy, and helped out up in Germany a little bit. When the bases started closing, we came back to the States. I ended up taking a church in Sedalia, Missouri, pastored that for about 3 years, and was having a mission conference. And while one of the missionaries was preaching, I'm praying for the people in the church to surrender. And God says, "You're going to Africa." And I said, "No, God, I'm the pastor, and he said, "You're going to Africa." And so ended up resigning the church there and going back on deputation again, raising our support. And so I called my director, Dr. Bragg, and I said, "Doc, what do you got open over in Africa?" And he started down the list, and when he got to Uganda, I remember telling him on the phone, I said, "Man, I don't want anything to do with Uganda. That's Idi Amin's territory, and he eats people for lunch, And so I said, "What else you got?" And so he started, giving me another list, and so I was writing all this down. And so I began to pray about what the Lord would have us to do and where He'd have us to go. And every time I got on my knees, Uganda would come up. And so I come back and picked up our family, and about a month and a half later, I think, we were in Uganda. We ended up going down to Imbarara, where I felt the Lord had called us, about 4 hours from the capital, and that's where we started out our ministry there pretty much. So we found that if we would do like the Bible says, we make disciples, and then from those disciples, we have won people to Christ, we have discipled them, we have grounded them in the scriptures. They have a desire now to have a church, they have a desire to serve God, and you can see God's hand on them and His leading. So they say, "Well, come out to my village and start a church." And I say, "No. I will help you. I work with you." In America, we have the concept that missions is soul winning and preaching, and that's 90% of what you do. Actually, everything you do has to do with training, mentoring, and we developed our own full-fledged 4-year Bible Institute. And so we started that, but we found out that was not going to be enough for our people in Uganda. So we developed that into a full week session. We call it a triennial Bible Institute because we bring them in 3 times a year. We start teaching them at 8 o'clock in the morning, go till about 9 o'clock at night, and all through the week, and just saturate training. Then on Saturday, we send them back out to the village, and they put into practice what they've learned. God really touched my heart through a series of events to start a Christian radio station, because I was going to this village on Monday, this village on Tuesday, this village Wednesday. I run out of days, and there's still thousands and thousands of villages. I couldn't get to them all. How am I going to get the gospel? These people are dying. And so God said, Christian radio is what I want you to do. I didn't know anything about radio, but God did. And so we just started down that road. And now since God began to touch the other hearts of missionaries, we've almost covered the nation of Uganda with Christian radio.
My name is Robert. I got saved by listening to live radio in Mbarara and went looking for the church where that radio could come from, and then that's how I got enrolled in the discipleship and also in the ministry. After those 2 years working under Pastor Bryan as the assistant pastor, and there is some time when he left me as the pastor, short pastor, as he went back home further. God was calling me to laying the burden on my heart to come to the village where I'm born. It had taken us 2.5 years to go soul winning, reach the people in the village, get them saved. We started with 148.
But it seems like about every week or so, we'll have somebody come in from a different village telling us that they have gotten saved, listening to the radio, and would like to know what to do next, where we go from here. And so we get them on the discipleship program, and then we start trying to get them in the Bible Institute, and then hopefully we'll get a church out there in their village. About 2 o'clock in the morning, just all kind of shooting and tanks shot around off. I mean, it just war broke out behind our house there. So we got dressed, went in the living room, we sat there and just, boy, prayed like mad. The mission field will teach you how to pray. And this went on for I don't know how many hours, and all of a sudden the phone rang, scared me to death.
Brother Stensaas, can you hear me okay on the phone tonight?
Yes, sir, can, Pastor.
Thank you for allowing us to visit with you for a moment.
They were having a mission conference, and I had forgotten that he was supposed to call us and interview us during their mission conference. And so they start conducting this interview, and he finds out what's going on. You know, the insurgency, the rebels have hit the town.
We woke up the other morning, you can hear the bombs going off just outside of town where they're bombing them, but they're very bizarre. They're just killing anybody that they can get their hands on, and just really a wicked group.
I went out that next day, driving around to see what all was going on, and I drove out one road, and thousands of refugees coming in from the villages. They hit the village that we were in the day before, and many of those folks were killed that we pleaded with to get saved. And we just got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people here at the church just giving you these dead stares. Help us, help us. Needless to say, they didn't cover that in Bible college, and so we didn't know what to do. Again, to make a long story short, God fed 1,500 people for 3 months at that church, and we didn't have any extra support. God just continued to bring it in day after day, week after week. And for 3 months, that's 250,000 meals, brother. God is still the God of the Bible. He's still working today. He can meet our needs, and no matter what it is. We've been in Uganda for 21 years, and through that time we've been able to establish about 15 churches. We've established 3 different Christian radio stations, and now the exciting thing is to watch those churches now sending out other people into the other villages to get preaching points and churches established out throughout their areas. I've been fighting this peripheral neuropathy for now about 14 years. And every year it gets worse and worse. We thought that we would live and die on the mission field. And I think, honestly, I think it is a gift from God. I don't want it. I didn't want it. But God knew that we'd never leave the field unless He forced the situation. We said this is going to have to be our last tour in Uganda. And it was just a few weeks later, I was here in Lancaster at the mission conference, and we had that banquet for the missionaries, and Dr. R said, can I talk to you a minute? I said, well, sure. And I'm thinking, oh man, I am in trouble. I have said something or done something I shouldn't have done. But I said, yeah, we can talk. So we got off in another room, and he said, you know, for several months we've been praying about asking you if you would consider leaving the field and coming back here and teaching missions here at West Coast. My heart's missions. But if I can turn the hearts of those kids towards missions and towards the Lord, that they might be able to get over there and not make a lot of the mistakes that we made, and equip them to where they can do a job so much better than we ever did, then I think I can see what God's doing.